God as mystery, a journey into the depths of faith. The Orthodox Christian faith invites believers into a sacred journey, one that does not demand immediate understanding, but rather encourages a lifelong relationship with the divine. At the heart of this journey is the profound truth that God is a mystery. This is not a mystery in the sense of a puzzle to be solved, but rather a reality so vast, so infinite, that no human mind can fully grasp it. From the earliest days of the Church, Christians have recognized that God's nature surpasses all human knowledge. Yet, rather than leading to frustration, this recognition brings us to a place of deep humility and awe. When we acknowledge that God is beyond our full comprehension, we begin to approach Him in the way He desires, with faith, reverence, and love. The unknowability of God. One of the first truths a Christian learns about God is that He is unknowable in His essence. This is not to say that we cannot know anything about God, but rather that we can never fully understand who He is in His entirety. Just as an ocean cannot be contained within a small cup, so too the infinite God cannot be grasped by our finite human minds. The Bible repeatedly affirms this truth. In Isaiah 55, verses 8 to 9, God declares, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." The Apostle Paul echoes this sentiment in Romans 11, verse 33. Oh, the depth of the riches of the wisdom and knowledge of God. How unsearchable His judgments, and His paths beyond tracing out. This unknowability does not mean that God is distant or detached from His creation. Rather, it means that He is beyond human categories and limitations. The more we grow in faith, the more we realize that God is not like anything in this world. He is not merely the most powerful being in the universe. He is beyond all being, beyond all comparison, beyond all limits. Yet in His love, God does not leave us completely in the dark. Though we cannot know Him in His essence, we can know Him in His energies, His actions, His presence, and His works in the world. Just as we know the warmth of the sun without being able to touch the sun itself, we experience God's love, grace, and power in our lives, even though we cannot fully grasp His divine essence. Apophatic theology, speaking of God by silence. In the Orthodox tradition, there is a particular way of speaking about God known as apophatic theology or negative theology. This approach does not try to define what God is, but rather expresses what He is not. The Church Fathers teach that human language is too limited to describe the fullness of God. Every word we use to speak of Him, no matter how holy, is still drawn from human experience. When we say that God is good, we mean it in a way that reflects human understanding of goodness. But God's goodness is far beyond what we can imagine. When we say He is wise, we refer to our own concept of wisdom, but His wisdom is beyond our comprehension. Because of this, Orthodox Christians often use apophatic theology to describe God by what He is not. God is not limited. He is not confined to space and time. He is not subject to change or decay. He is beyond all categories and descriptions. Even words like infinite or eternal are only shadows of the reality of God's being. This approach teaches us humility. It reminds us that no matter how much we learn about God, there will always be more to discover. It keeps us from making the mistake of thinking that we can define God or fit Him into our human understanding. Instead, it encourages us to approach Him with wonder and reverence, knowing that He is always greater than we can imagine. Yet, while apophatic theology emphasizes what God is not, it does not mean that we are left with silence. It leads us to a deeper experience of God in prayer and worship. The great saints of the Church teach that when words fail, silence speaks. The closer we draw to God, the more we realize that He is beyond words, and we enter into a relationship of love, where understanding is no longer based on intellect alone, but on the experience of His presence. The balance between transcendence and immanence. One of the greatest paradoxes of the Christian faith is that God is both transcendent and immanent. God's transcendence means that He is beyond everything we can conceive. He is holy, infinite, and beyond time and space. He is not bound by the universe. Rather, He is the creator of all that exists. God's immanence means that He is present with us. Though He is beyond all things, He is also closer to us than our own breath. He is actively involved in His creation, sustaining it at every moment and filling it with His life.